I see we have another super
We got a
chat
super chat
from I can't see that. What does it say?
VNet Singh.
VNet Singh.
What explains them going blow for blow against the best teams during the gauntlet and then collapsing against the bottom feeders? Love the show. So
that's like what happened is the question.
Yeah, that's the really frustrating part, because we talked about this Saturday as well. The idea that if they would have lost 7 straight against the great teams,
and you put that in your article, that would have made sense.
That would have made sense. It'd been like, okay, that's a bummer, but we get it.
Yeah.
The fact that, and obviously the 7-game losing streak started at the end of the gauntlet. They have the one game against Florida where they hold them to like 15 shots and still lose because Felix Sandstrom was terrible. Then they have the game against the Rangers where they go shot for shot, goal for goal with them. They lose in overtime because Tortorella throws Ryan Poehling out there.
Outstanding.
But anyway, so those 2 games, sure. But they were still playing pretty well in both those games. In the first game, it's entirely on the goalie.
Yeah.
Second game, the third period was maybe the most entertaining third period I've seen in the NHL all season. It was wild. And then you're thinking, okay, now the schedule eases up. And the fact that it's not even that they're playing great against these teams and just getting unlucky, like they didn't play great against Montreal. They certainly didn't play great against Chicago. They played legitimately awful against Columbus.
Yes.
Buffalo, like that game, I thought they played fine. It was just Fedotov did not look good, and they didn't finish on their chances. But like, it's still Buffalo. They're nothing special.
Yeah, they're below you in the standings, and like you were supposed to be bad.
Yeah, exactly. And you were beating teams way better than Buffalo.
Yes,
a week and a half earlier,
considerably. Is it just like this was it? Like the tank is now empty, and that leads me to what I wanted to ask about Tortorella. Like more so than like his micro decisions, like 11-7. Or a deployment of Sean Couturier and Travis Sanheim. The way, and we've talked about it a little, just like they play an exhausting style.
They do.
Is it unrealistic to ask a team to do this for 82 games and then like expect them to be good to go at the end of the season? Like say they were preparing for the playoffs right now, like they win a few more when they were actually playing well, and now they're like they've clinched, or at least it's like a 98% chance on Money Puck or something. It's like, all right, I wonder who they're going to have in the first round. Like, as things sort of even out, they'd be out of gas even if that was the case, wouldn't it?
I'm not ready to say that, because I've heard some people make the argument that like this is why John Tortorella hasn't won a Stanley Cup since the mid-2000s, because he runs his teams into the ground during the season. They have nothing left in the playoffs. I can't speak. I don't play for John Tortorella.
Yeah.
I can't speak to whether that was the reason every year. That said, they did go out in the first round the year they played the Tampa Bay Lightning and beat the best team ever, and they didn't seem tired. That Blue Jackets team didn't seem tired then. So I think the way that he did it this time, yes, this cannot be sustained. You can't have guys like York and Sanheim be playing 30 minutes a night for a month straight, and Sam Ersson as a rookie getting every single game. Like, that was unsustainable.
Basically, no fourth line for a lot of the year. You're going 11-7, and it's like, well, one of the 11's Nick Delorier, so guess what?
You have 10.
We have 10.
Yeah.
And like we have no third pair. You know, we're just going to run out 30 minutes a game. Like, we're going to play it like it's a playoff game with the defensemen, and like you said, with the goalies, like, all right, if you're playing this style, and
that's my thing.
We have Sean Couturier coming back from missing basically 2 full seasons, and we don't know what his back's going to be able to take. Well, guess what, dude? You're playing 1C minutes, and you're back to your old workload already.
Yeah.
I guess if you combine the two things,
that's kind of where I'm at.
But
like, I think just the style, I think they would have been able to handle it. I can't say that for sure, but I think they would. I don't think this is too demanding of a style for an NHL team to sustain it over 82 games. I do think it's too demanding of a style if you're also giving guys insane workloads in addition to that. And I think on some level, John Tortorella probably realizes it, that, you know, he was taking a risk. But his view, and I don't necessarily think he's wrong, as we talked about earlier, that his view is that if I didn't do this, we would have been out of the playoff race a month ago. Like, if I would have given Felix Sandstrom every third start, we would have lost 4 more games.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have given Cam York and Travis Sanheim all those minutes, then instead of Eric Johnson being on the ice for like 14 goals against, he would have been on the ice for 28 goals against. Like, I understand why he made the calculation he did at every turn. But what's undeniable is that by making that calculation at every turn, where I'm going to pile more work and more of a load on the guys I trust. Now a lot of those guys appear to be cooked, and you're seeing what happens.
Is this like when you, oh, well, if I had done this, we would have been out of it. I guess this is just the hole in the plan, or at least as some people might see it. Like, yeah, it was going to take all of that just to maybe get in like a lucky, like the Metro's bad, so you get in lucky in the 3 spot, or you get into a wild card and then you lose in the first round. Was it worth it? Like, do you think, like, it was important for everyone that they play these important games down the stretch, whether they got in or not? Like I said with Gargano this morning,
right?
Like, Keith Jones is standing there telling me and you, like, looking us in the face and saying the playoffs are not the priority. And then Danny Briere goes out and trades probably their most effective defenseman to prove that point.
Right.
Like, it was never the goal, like the stated goal, we need to make playoffs this year. It was always just like, we want to see this team in competitive situations. And like, yeah, Morgan Frost had a great end of the year last year. They were exhibition games, so who knows what he really is, you know? They wanted to get information about guys. Was it worth it, do you like, instead of a top 5 pick or something?
I mean, I don't know. Look, obviously getting a top 5 pick would be great because we know this team needs high-end talent. You have a better chance of getting high-end talent the higher up you pick in the draft. However, I do think that there have been, let's not say the season's over yet, there have been positive signs in terms of player development at the NHL level that would have made it very difficult for this team to be bad enough to get a top 5 pick, regardless of the way John Tortorella coached the team. Like, I love what I've seen from Tyson Forrester. I really liked what I saw in the first two-thirds of the year from Joel Farabee. I know that this end of the year is going to torpedo his numbers, but I was impressed on the whole by Sam Ersson. I don't think his end of season numbers will reflect the quality of season he had, because I know from the fact that I followed the team that he just was cooked at the end of the season. I've seen good things out of a lot. And like, that's the thing. If you're going to get a top 5 pick, it almost requires for none of those good things to happen.
Yeah.
Because to get a top 5 pick, you have to be real friggin' bad. And to be real friggin' bad, you have to have a lot of guys either stagnate or get worse. And we did see a lot of players, like Cam York took a step forward this year. Definitely. I think Travis Sanheim showed that, like, that isn't a total disaster of a contract.
Something more, yeah.
I mean, even, and I know his second half has been bad, but like, even getting to see for a half of the season that Sean Couturier, maybe he can't take the workload that he could before, but hopefully this means that if you stagger his shifts a bit better in the future, that he can remain a legitimately good top 6 NHL center. These are all positive things.
Yeah.
And if you were going to get the top 5 pick, none of those positive things could have happened.
No, like, a top 5 pick would be cool. That would also mean Tyson Forster scored 12 goals, not 20. Yeah. You know, like little things like that along the way. And we got information. And even if it's information we don't like, like, it's still information, you know? And I do agree with Ayers. Like, I am willing to chalk up, you know, his post, you know, Valentine's Day numbers basically to, what'd you expect? Rookie goalie who I think in some of the quotes you have, Torts goes, we had him penciled in for 18, 22 starts this year, and look where he's at now.
He's at 45.
Yeah. So, and like, all right, now, even if it's, we think he's a really good tandem goalie. Maybe he's not a true number 1, but if we can get what we got out of him in the first half of the season over the course of a year, if we have another guy to split the shifts or split the games with, that's really strong information to have. So I'm not willing to say this. Like, I got a lot of, like, you know, not everyone knew I was off this weekend, so got a lot of the tweets like, well, how about the plan now? And like this, I'm just not ready to say it was a total waste of time. And listen, you and I both this summer were like, what? Just tear it down. Like, what are we doing here? You know? And we can always have that debate, but I always think, like, all right, this is kind of, we're talking in circles. We can debate what they should do, but it's what they're doing. So how long can we have that conversation, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to, like, a guy like Ersson, I like the information we got. I think he's better than his numbers, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he responds next season.
We all silly like the mayor.